Hello everyone, welcome back. Before we start the class today, let's have a quick review of the contents from last time. We learned the history of Yunnan in ancient times by using 12 keywords. They were our outline as we learn about ancient Yunnan. Today, let's move on to modern times of Yunnan. After the Opium War in the middle of the 19th century, Yunnan entered modern times. The key word for Yunnan at that time is invasion. Back then, China, under the administration of the Qing government, was a semi-colonial and semi-feudal society. France and Britain were interested in the rich resources of Yunnan. Therefore, trading ports were opened in Mengzi, Hekou, and Kunming. France got the right to build railway from Kunming to Vietnam so as to open mines in some administrative prefectures in Yunnan. The railway was working mainly for mineral transportation from China to Vietnam. A series of battles against the invasion of foreign countries broke out. But these battles were suppressed by the Qing government. Local people also fought for mining rights and the right to build the railway. The resistance movements led by Du Wenxiu, Li Wenxue, and Tong Menghui, a Chinese revolutionary league, broke out successively. The corresponding historical sites have become popular historical attractions for visitors. In 1911 revolution led by Sun Yat-sen was a turning point in Chinese history because the revolution ended the administration of the Qing government, which marked the end of feudal society in China and the beginning of the Republic of China. The keyword for Yunnan during the Democratic Revolution is uprising. In 1911, in Yunnan, 3 influential uprisings broke out and put an end to the rule of the Qing government over Yunnan. They were the Tengyue Uprising in western Yunnan, the October 30th Uprising in Kunming, and the Lin'an Uprising in southeast Yunnan. The uprisings eventually led to the establishment of the Yunnan military government of the Republic of China. It was the beginning of democratic politics in Yunnan. However, in 1915, Yuan Shikai, the president of the Republic of China, restored the monarchy and declared himself to be the Emperor of China. Facing the retroaction of Yuan Shikai, Yunnan was the first province to initiate the Republic defending movement to fight him. There were many outstanding historical figures during this period. Their stories will be detailed in the chapter on historical figures. Meanwhile, many historical relics for democratic uprisings in Tengchong, Kunming, and Jianshui have become tourist attractions today. From 1937 to 1945, during the War of Resistance against Japan, which was part of World War II, Yunnan functioned as the rear guard of the whole country. So, the key phrase of Yunnan back then was rear guard. Many factories, schools, and universities from both the inland and the coastland were moved to Yunnan, and 4 industrial areas came into being. They were Haikou, Majie, Ciba, and Anning, which produced the first telescope, the first wire, and many other firsts for China. Kunming played the role of important industrial area and center of education during the war period. Since most of land in North China had been occupied by Japan, Nankai University, Tsinghua University, and Peking University moved to Yunnan, where they established a temporary assembly called the Southwest Associated University during the war. Although faced with Japanese bombs, professors and students of the Southwest Associated University never stopped teaching and studying. They built mud-walled classrooms and simple campuses in Kunming. They continued teaching and studying for 8 years in spite of the threat from Japanese bombers. This special university was well known for its academic achievements and was called the home of democracy. Teachers and students here firmly believed that China could step out of adversity and finally won the war. They looked forward to a post-war peace and prosperity in which they could help to build a strong democratic China. In the most difficult conditions, the Southwest Associated University educated the best scholars and scientists in China. The representative ones were Yang Zhengning and Li Zhengdao, who won the Nobel Prize for their great discoveries in modern physics. Besides, most influential scholars and scientists in the development of the People's Republic of China graduated from the Southwest Associated University. Their conference, bravery, perseverance, and patriotism have continued to encourage the younger generations. The remains of the Southwest Associated University remain in Yunnan Normal University, where the Museum of the Southwest Associated University can be found there too. It is a tourist attraction where visitors can recall the history of the Democratic Revolution in China. It is also the home of national patriotic education in China. Besides the bravery demonstrated from the university, hundreds of thousands of Yunnan soldiers fought bravely in battles and achieved great triumphs. They won great fame in the Taiyuan and Zhongtiaoshan battles. Meanwhile, Yunnan acted as a lifeline for the war of resistance against Japan. Since all the coastal areas and north of China had been occupied by Japanese troops, international military supplies could come into China only by Yunnan province. Military supplies were mainly transported by the Kunming-Burma Road and Sino-Indian Road, which is also called the Stilwell Road, and the Hump Airlift. They provided limited accesses to China from the outside world back then. The Kunming-Burma Road was 1,146 kilometers long, starting in Kunming and ending in Rangoon, Burma, which is the modern-day Myanmar. Such a large construction was finished within just 9 months. The road construction in wartime astonished many countries. Therefore, Burma Road was known as a construction miracle together with the Panama Canal and the Great Wall. On the Burma Road, more than 3,000 overseas Chinese sacrificed their lives. They came back to China in wartime and acted as drivers and mechanics for vehicles carrying military supplies. Japanese bombers frequently attacked the Burma Road, aiming to stop the transportation of supplies. The overseas Chinese kept driving, repairing, and moving all the time, no matter how difficult it was. They made great contributions for their motherland, China. A monument was erected at the foot of the Western Hill in Kunming to commemorate the patriotism of overseas Chinese during wartime. It is a meaningful historical attraction in Kunming. After the Burma Road was cut off by Japanese bombers, land transportation stopped and supplies were then transported by air. The US pilots and Chinese pilots cooperated to open the Hump Airlift to transport military supplies from India to Kunming. The airline was named Hump due to the hump-like mountain ranges the airplanes flew over. Hump Airlift was known as the airline of death in global aviation history. Do you know why? More than half of the airplanes on Hump Airlift crashed due to the foggy weather, the limited flying altitude, the high mountain peaks, and the attacks by Japanese bombers. That is the highest crash rate in the world aviation history. However, Hump Airlift brought more than 800,000 tons of military supplies into Yunnan, which effectively supported the battlefront of Chinese army. Thousands of Chinese people worked on the repair and expansion of airports for the Hump Airlift. The monument of Hump Airlift is erected in Jiaoye Park in Kunming. In addition, there is an exhibition hall for the Hump Airlift in the Municipal Museum of Kunming. Visitors can see more detailed stories of the Hump Airlift in these tourist attractions. In May 1942, Japanese troops invaded Western Yunnan, and Yunnan entered the front lines of the war. 2 years later, the invaders were driven out, and Yunnan regained its lost land. Yunnan was the first province to drive the Japanese invaders out and get its land back. Yunnan accepted Japanese surrender in Vietnam, making it the only province of China to accept a surrender in a foreign country. So, the key word for Yunnan in this period is patriotism, which is reflected in all of the historical events. People in Yunnan showed the strongest patriotism to fight against the invasion of Japan. After the War of Resistance against Japan, Chiang Kai-shek launched the Civil War. Students in Kunming were the first to rise up and launch a chain of movements in order to condemn the Kuomintang Civil War. One of the most well-known movements was the December 1st movement, which became the third milestone in the history of the Chinese youth movement. On December 9th, 1949, Lu Han led his troops and staged an uprising in Kunming. After that, People's Liberation Army forces liberated the whole of Yunnan. In March 1950, the People's Government of Yunnan was founded, beginning a brand new page of Yunnan in history. So, the word for Yunnan in the Civil War is liberation. Up to now, we have finished all the keywords for the important periods of Yunnan's history. In my opinion, history is like a mirror, from which we can learn more about the culture of Yunnan. No matter which part of the history impresses you most, you can find corresponding tourist attractions where you can learn more details. Looking back, I'm always astonished by the power of history. History is like the soul of a place, which can light our minds with its spirit. Okay? I hope you like the general history review of Yunnan. So much for today. See you next time. 这节课中涉及的相关词汇，同学们请看这里哦。